Hi everyone. In this video I'm going to briefly review how we can use the ShrinkWrap tool in Rhino8 to export geometry for Substance Painter. I'm really loving the ShrinkWrap tool, and here are some quick tests that I've done, and I'm going to show you my basic strategy for making these and then go over the settings to take these into Substance Painter. Okay, so let's go back to wireframe, shaded. Let me show the rest of the geometry here, and I'll just get rid of that one because it's copied from it. So the ShrinkWrap is a really great tool, and I have a couple of studies here. It's really easy to make interesting formal studies by collecting geometry, aggregating geometry, pushing things together, combining different geometry types, whether it's mesh and NURBS or sub-D and NURBS, and experimenting very easily with getting new objects. So in this case, I have an object which I made in Maya using Bifrost, and it's a quite complicated eroded thing, and I've just brought it into Rhino and I've put some NURBS spheres around it, and then by using the ShrinkWrap tool I can create a new geometry which is made from all of these different elements. So we go from this collection of elements to the ShrinkWrap version, and then by using the quad remesh tool I can get a nicer topology, and this is something that we could take into Substance Painter. So I've also added to this thing some tubes, these rings which are kind of working with the voids just for fun, just messing around here. And the way that I did this was simply by, let's hide these tubes, making some NURBS curves and arranging them in space. So this was quite simply just making a circle and then rebuilding this circle with let me bring the window over, 4 points, hitting OK, and then this gives me something that's really easy to manipulate, and I can push and pull these control points. And to turn the control points on, they just pop on automatically now when you grab them. My gumball, I'm going to realign the handles to the world, and now I can kind of move these things around really easily. And so it was just a matter of grabbing these curves and kind of pulling them up and positioning them around these loops, like these structural tubes which are hanging down and could maybe with more of them support the object. Here I can then quite simply use the, pipe tool. And let's see what the radius is. That looks pretty good. So, and my radius here is 1.2. Obviously, if it starts at 1, it's going to be too big. Pipe at 1.2. Could have a multiple. Oops, I don't know what that did. Pipe it 0.12 because that's what we want. Great. Okay, you'll see here that I also have a sub-D output with my pipe, and by default, the output might be set to surface. Because we're going into Substance Designer, I'm going to switch it to sub-D and hit enter. And now what you'll see is that when I hit tab, I get a smooth representation. So that's what a sub-D is. It's a mesh that can be smoothed on the fly, and then we can use the sub-D tools to manipulate it further. So in this case, in the sub-D menu, I'm just going to add some divisions to this to make it a bit smoother. And then when I want to bring it into Substance Painter, I'm going to want to go ahead and convert it to a mesh. And to do that, my preferred method, you can actually just convert objects to NURBS. You can type, so if you want to convert it to NURBS, use this. I want to go to a mesh. I could type mesh, but that's going to not give me the exact topology that I have. So if I do that, and I'm going to get this like very dense mesh, and I could work with that meshing tool to get a better result. But let me toggle off the sub-D, and you can see here that when I hit the tab key, it's going from smooth to faceted. Let's say that this is a fine number of facets. We could choose to give it slightly more facets just by hitting, where is it, up here, subdivide one more time. Okay, great. And so that gives us more subdivisions. And now if I'm happy with this level of subdivision, so let me hit the tab keys. So that's smooth, that's faceted. It's hard to tell the difference. So now I just want to extract. The command is extract control polygon. And it looks like nothing has happened, but it actually has a mesh selected. So here's where I could grab the sub D and maybe delete that. And now I have the mesh. And so that's something that could be exported to Substance. I'm going to go ahead and hit undo to get my original one back. Okay, that should be fine. Hit show. Yeah, I have my tubes there. And then when I'm ready to go into Substance Painter, I just want to assign these things different materials before I export this as an OBJ. And one problem that I ran into recently is if you can accidentally export curves in your OBJ, and then Substance Painter will not read the file, will not import the file. So we have to make sure that we're turning all of our curves off when we're selecting the geometry to go into Substance Painter. Okay, let's go back to this idea of using Substance. Let me go ahead and turn these things off. So this is kind of a very organic model, and it's using geometry that I made in another program. But I want to just show you a way that you can simply do something just with Rhino tools, and it wouldn't have to be boxes, but I did the simplest thing that I could think of here, which is just taking some NURBS boxes, right, and pulling them up, squishing them, moving them around in space and starting to aggregate them. I'm holding down on the Alt key just to manipulate stuff. I'm now going to switch my gumball to the object, and that makes it easier for me to reshape it. And I'm just kind of moving and messing around, scaling different things, rotating. Maybe I even want, ortho's already off. Alt makes, holding down on Alt makes a copy. Just, bringing different things together, rotating things in different ways. I don't know why my handle is here. It's a little easier when it's in the center, but I think if I just made a new box, it'll go back to the center. So let's do that. And that's really odd. I've never gumball. Let's from the object. I've never encountered this. Relocate, reset gumball. Let's see if that works. Gumball. Auto reset gumball. That's really, really odd. Oh, maybe, is it because it's an extrusion and not a NURBS? So, that's really odd. If we explode this and join it again, okay, that takes it to the center. So, learn something new every day. So now I can have these cubes in the center, or rectangles, boxes rather, in the center, the gumball in the center, and I can move them around and arrange them in space. So you can very easily kind of, put things together, make a compound object or an object that seems like it's starting to fall apart, and floating in interesting ways. So let's go ahead and move that one. So I'm not thinking too hard about this, just moving things around like that and get something like that. And now with this one, so this is one that I did before, and the little twist here is I was also just grabbing by shift control, grabbing certain edges and making these things a little bit less pure as boxes. Shift control, grabbing the vertex, right? You could also grab an edge and something like that, scale it in, and you get a slightly different shapes, right? But the point ultimately is that, and we could also use fillet edge, or we could try to bevel. So we can bevel on these things. No, bevel. Edge bevel. Am I making that up? You could bevel an edge. I'm probably, that's really odd. I'm sure that you can, but I'm blanking on the command. Nevertheless, let's just take this, and then we can use the ShrinkWrap tool And we can, I would turn off fill holes, otherwise it will try to close up holes like this. Turn on the preview, hide input objects. You can even turn off the mesh wires if you want. And this, now what's interesting here is we can start changing the target edge length. So if we make this bigger, like something like 1, let me turn the draw mesh wires on. That, right, so if we make it really high, like 2, then we've got, we're like a more melted version of the object. And if we bring it down to 1.5, again, we're losing the resolution on the boxes. If we go to 0.15, on the other hand, we're going to get like a very high resolution on these things. So it just kind of depends on what you're looking for this, and you can experiment with, there's no right or wrong. It's more just what are you looking for with the object. So I'm going to go with this more like medium resolution, which is 0.5 for this one. You can also try offsetting it, like offsetting it could give you interesting results. So that's actually quite nice because it rounds the corners a little bit, and that's good for texturing because then you don't get errors along the edges. So I kind of like that. Let's go back to 0.5. That retains the structure of it. Maybe 0.75, something like that. Oh, that's pretty nice. So I kind of like that. And so I'm going to hit OK. Then I get this one. And let me take my gumball back to the world. Okay, move this over. Zoom selected. Okay. And now as a final step to bring this into Substance Designer, I am going to, what am I going to do? I'm going to quad remesh. Quad remesh, and then you can play with the poly count. This one's quite high because I had a more complex object last time, but it starts typically around 2000, I think, is the default. And then if we hit preview and hide input objects, you can see we get this nice topology. So then you can always go up to a higher number of faces. So let's see, it's 6000. Having a high face count is not bad because not only do you get more detail, but then for our displacement in Substance, it helps to have more geometry. So we could take this up to maybe 10,000 and see what that looks like, and that's looking pretty good. So I'm going to stick with this. So also we can choose to convert it to a sub-D if we want, and that will smooth it out. And then if we don't convert it to a sub-D, it will stay a mesh. So I'm just going to leave it as a mesh so I can skip the step of converting it. Let me just show you how to do it. If I convert it to a sub-D, okay, now my sub-D, I'll pull that thing over. And then it's faceted right now. We know it's a sub-D because when I hit tab. And now that I see it as a mesh, I want a little more detail here. So I'm just going to go to the sub-D tools, or I see it as a sub-D, but I see it as a faceted thing. And I want it to have a little bit more detail. So I am going to add divisions to it. Oops, sorry. Select the thing. That would help. There we go. Now I'm subdividing it, and that looks a little bit better. I have more geometry, and that looks like it would be good for Substance Painter. So what I want to do now is just, let's see, I want to extract the control polygon. And now make sure that I select the mesh. And then this is the thing that you would want to bring into Substance Painter. And I could do that. I would probably bring it over to the origin before I convert it. Okay, so that just takes you to through the process. I kind of like this one. I'll save this geometry. I'm going to delete all this stuff. Maybe I'd use that in the future, but I want to show you then also this earlier one that I did. So I'm going to hit show here. And so this is, again, another collection of boxes. Again, nothing mysterious here, just using ShrinkWrap. I think for this one I used target, I don't remember what the target edge length was. Maybe it was 0.2. Unclick fill holes, preview, draw mesh wires, hide input objects. There we go. Yeah, so this looks pretty close to what I have over here. Maybe it was 0.25 or something, but it looks maybe the same. Okay, so I got this one. All right, so we would just hit OK, but I already have it here. And then with this one, these are groups. I'm going to group that. Maybe it was a mesh. Huh, that's strange. Yeah, so with this one, I just to further make it a little bit more interesting, I just this little part here, but that is simply this thing copied over, shrunk down a little bit, rotated, and then kind of stuck on just to make a hole here and to make it a slightly more interesting object. We could rotate it out that way a little bit, kind of work with that, just making a more compound object just by making this shape, so using the same shape. So then now that I have that, I could just grab these things to make them one mesh and use the shrink wrap again, right? And again, point, maybe because we have a smaller object, we're smaller facets here. Preview, hide input objects. We just want to make sure that we're getting enough resolution. So I drop this down a little bit and that looks pretty good. So we did okay. Then we get that one right. So let me just hit undo because I have this already done over here. So now I have this compound object, and I am just going to use the quad remesh with this one. And for this one, I did a quad count of 20,000 since there was more geometry. Preview, convert to sub-D. In this case, I'm not going to do that. Hide input objects, right? And so I get something like this, which is what I have here. And then for the studies that I've been taking into Substance Painter, what I've been doing is just adding a little structure. So it's not just the mass, but some other element. So to make these pipes, I simply, well, one thing I did was hide that, but if we make a mesh plane, the pipe command, grab all of the curves that you want to pipe. Pipe, output, sub-D, hit OK, and then getting these pipes. Okay, making sure that the output is sub-D. And then as a last step, we would want to grab these pipes and add more divisions here. So again, under the sub-D tools, we could start adding divisions to this thing. And when I'm looking at this, it's adding, there are many more divisions in one direction than the other, which it's better to have them more even. So how do we solve that? Like one thing maybe I'll do is just delete those things and go back to the original curves and just hide that. And I'm going to rebuild these curves. Let's see if this solves the problem. Right now the point count is 2. If we take the point count up to 8 or something like that, hit OK. And now we have many more points with each curve. And if we use the pipe rather, do we have any controls? Sub-D, output sub-D, cap flat, shape bending, local, shape blending, low fit, real, no, blah, 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 blah. Okay, it doesn't give us any options here for adjusting that. Is there any way that we could make this? I don't want to get too hung up on this, but if we extract the points, okay, group these points, and the cutting objects, we're going to select the points, okay, and now let's delete the points, group the objects, make sure that nothing's accidentally grouped together. Okay, so now let's pipe. Well, shoot, it's still giving me the same darn results. Well, okay, so that's just the way it's going to be. So I'll just grab these and go back to the sub-D tools and that gives us a reasonable number of divisions. I wish they had more like square things here. We could spend some time correcting that, but I don't think it's worth it for this. So we're just going to show this, and this is what we could then take into Substance Painter. So let me go ahead and, so let's say we were going to take this one to Substance Painter. I'm going to hide this guy. I'm going to bring this over, and now I'm going to delete that, hide this. And so I was scratching my head the other day because my mesh would not be read by Substance Painter, and the problem was that I had curves in here. So what I need to do is make sure that I'm only selecting meshes here. So SEL curve is going to grab all of the curves, and I can delete those, and now I only have meshes. Now I want to control the materiality of these pipes, which maybe are these metal things, and maybe I want to grab that one, this one pipe, and move it down so it's intersecting those objects more. If I change my gumball to object, it's not giving me the, it's not actually recognizing that as its alignment. That's weird. Doesn't matter though, we can just kind of move it over. Oops, not you, but you. Move you over, and there we go. Now we have things connected, so that's better, like more like we're supporting this structure. The structures are a little, the supports are a little thin, but let's not worry about that right now. Okay, so let's now assign these things different materials. So if you don't see the material tab over here, I mean, one thing we can do is just, let's see if this was closed. We can just type materials. Then we get this tab back and we can link it over here. Oh, by the way, I think in Rhino 8, maybe by default, you get these vertical tabs. And in Rhino 7, the default was horizontal. And so that was throwing me for a loop. So I, just because I'm used to it, will put this back to horizontal. Just more, because I've been doing it this way for a gazillion years. It's easier. Okay, so let's look at materials, and then if I want to give this one, I have some for the other sample that I was working with, but for this, I'll make a new one, and I just want mass and structure. And so for this one, I'm just going to hit this plus key here, or add material, little material tube with a plus, and I'm going to choose custom. Custom, I'll give it a new name here, and that name will be, I'll just call it mass 2, and then I'm going to give it a color just so I can tell it apart. Oh, sorry, the color wheel is on the other window here, so let's give it some color, whatever, it doesn't matter because it's going to be a different color in Substance Painter anyway. So and then I want to come over and assign that to this material. And then if I turn it on rendered, now I can see that it's assigned. Then I'm going to grab all of the tubes and I will give them a new color. And I will make it just custom. And then I'll give this one structure or tube. And color could just be gray. Something like that, and just so I know that they're assigned that, maybe I'll give it a blue color just to make sure that I know that they're, see, yeah, because they don't have this color yet. So what I can do is select all the tubes and then right click this material and assign to objects. Now they have this blue color, and this is something that I could take into Substance Painter. And I'm just like looking at this and thinking that one's like a little far, and so I want to bring that one over more. And this one, do I even need that one? Maybe he can come up here and just connect those two. And let me grab this guy again and move him down. And it's kind of fun that it's coming out, but let's just put it there. And I honestly think this I kind of like that. And then this one, I'm gonna rotate and get him out of the opening. Like, that's kind of nice. It's kind of nice where they slide by and through there. So yeah, I think that can work. And move that up. No, now you are not in the structure anymore, so I want to move that. Oops, I want to move you inside. You know what I need to do? I want to go to the world. Oh, we were in the world. Does that work? Okay, well, I wish you were, can I rotate you? I'm being a little obsessive here. So okay, let's live with that. All right. Okay, so let's just double check SEL curve to make sure that we don't have any curves. SEL mesh, hide. Okay, that was a good save because these things, for my original one, these are not meshes yet. So, and if we go to the shaded view, I've subdivided them, but I have not extracted the control polygon. So let's do that. Extract control polygon. So now I have, if I come over to properties, I have the meshes. Let me just group them for a minute. Control X to get rid of them or to cut them, and then paste them back. That was just an easy way to get the meshes, and then rendered. And these meshes, good, have the same material as the sub-D. So that's so far so good. I'm going to get a lot of weird objects here, so I'm just going to hit show, and everything's going to come back, and I have these things kind of together. Isolate. There we go. Now this is what I'm going to take into Substance Painter. Ungroup. And I'm also just going to rotate this one and move it in a little bit more so I don't, so things are a little bit more like a column and we don't have too many tripod things flying out. All right, so this is what I'm going to take into Substance Painter. So I have one mesh. These meshes, because they have different materials, I'll be able to work on these materials independently in Substance Painter. And then to export them, again, SEL mesh, hide, good. We only have meshes here, that's good. I'm going to grab all of these objects. Let me go back to the shaded view. I want to make sure that I am kind of close to the origin here, so that's good. And now I want to grab all of these things and file, export selected. And we are going to choose OBJ, and we'll call it Painter. I have some Painter tests. We'll call it Painter Test 3. We want to make sure that we have polygon mesh objects, formatting. We want to make sure that Rhino3D is set to, or we want this checked, map Rhino3D to OBGY. Hit OK. And now that should export our object. And now we'll bring this into Painter. Thanks for listening.